Hi, I'm Josh with Taste of Home. Today I'm going to show you how with a little bit of patience you can make my homemade sauerkraut recipe. In addition to being superior to any sauerkraut that you can buy at the grocery store, making sauerkraut at home allows you to add flavors that you like, making the recipe special. It also allows you to use up any leftover cabbage that might be lurking in the back of your refrigerator. So the star of sauerkraut is of course the cabbage itself. I have about 6 pounds of cabbage, which is of course 2 heads, and I'm going to start by removing any damaged or bruised leaves from the outside, then quartering the cabbage and removing the cores. Now that I have all of my cores removed, it's time to start slicing. Now this might seem like a daunting task, but you can use something like this here, which is a handheld kitchen mandolin. I really enjoy this tool. You can adjust the thickness of the slices with a little dial here on the side, and it also comes with a guard, which is of course really great for protecting your fingertips while you slice. And if you don't have a handheld kitchen mandolin, you can of course just use a really sharp knife, which is what I'm going to do here today. Now I'm just going to slice these into the 1/8-inch slices. As you can see, this is a lot of cabbage, so I need a really large bowl for this process. Now for the basic sauerkraut, the only other ingredient I need besides the cabbage itself is canning salt. So for this amount, which is again 6 pounds, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of canning salt. Now it's really important that you use canning salt versus any other variety, because some of the other salts can have stabilizers or additives which can affect the process of the sauerkraut fermentation. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I like to customize my recipe, and some might find this shocking, but I'm going to add some additional ingredients for added flavor. First, I'm going to add some sweet onions. I love the savoriness that this adds to my sauerkraut. Next, I have 2 Granny Smith apples that I've julienned. And I'm going to go ahead and add those to my bowl as well, and this adds some nice sweetness. And then lastly, for some added flavor, I'm going to add some fennel seeds and some ground coriander. And again, these are not traditional ingredients. I just find that I really enjoy the enhanced flavor that they add to my sauerkraut. And boy, does this taste good on a homemade Reuben sandwich. So now, I'm going to go in with clean hands and start squeezing. If you choose, you can let this sit with the salt for about 10 minutes, but I'm just going to dive right in and start the squeezing process. This can take a little while, so make sure you've had your coffee because you're going to need your energy. So what I'm doing while I squeeze this cabbage is I want it to become a little bit softer, and I want it to release its liquid. As you can see, the volume of the cabbage has been greatly reduced while I've been squeezing it. The color has also changed. It's a little bit more of a brighter green. And then if you take a look at the bottom of the bowl, you can see that there's quite a little bit of liquid, and that's exactly what I want, because I'm going to use that when I pack this cabbage into my fermenting vessel. And that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to take a minute and talk about the vessel itself. Right here in front of me is a traditional sauerkraut fermentation vessel. You can see that it has a little channel here at the top that's used for pouring water in. You have weights to keep the sauerkraut submerged below the liquid, and most commonly these are made of earthenware, but this one here is porcelain. Now, if you're going to try sauerkraut for the first time and you don't know that you want to invest in a fermenting vessel at the beginning, you can use something like this here, which is just a glass canister, and then use an upturned plate as your weight to keep that sauerkraut submerged below the liquid. Today, I'm actually going to be using this one right here, which is from Kilner. It's a little bit more contemporary. I like that it's glass so that you can see what I'm doing. And this also comes with weights. It comes with a little rubber top. And this right here is a water seal valve. And you just place this in the top, add water, and that allows gas to escape while preventing bacteria from entering the vessel. Now it's time to place all of my sauerkraut to be inside my fermentation vessel here. Now before I started this, I made sure that my vessel was clean and sanitized. That's an important first step. Again, just to make sure that there's no bacteria that's going to form inside your sauerkraut as it ferments. I usually make a little bit of a mess while I place my sauerkraut in my vessel. So I have a little piece of parchment paper here to catch any little stray bits that might fall, and then I can just pick those up and add those to my vessel. Now, as I add this, I want to pack it down, and I have a muddler here. This is just a handy tool that I have in my kitchen, usually used for making cocktails, but I'm going to pack that down into the vessel. And the purpose for doing this is to remove as many air bubbles as possible. Again, I keep talking about bacteria. We don't want bad bacteria inside of our sauerkraut. So I'm going to pack that down. Another benefit is that it will allow me to fit all of this cabbage inside my vessel. So I'm going to continue this process, adding a little bit at a time and packing it down until it's all full. I'm almost done here, just a couple more scoops left before I fit all of that cabbage into my container here. Now that all my cabbage is inside my fermentation vessel, I'm going to add my weights. And again, the purpose for adding these weights is to keep all of the vegetables and contents submerged below the surface of the liquid. And this is a food safety issue. You want everything submerged so that bacteria does not grow on the food. Now you can see that I have quite a little bit of liquid above the level of my cabbage, and that's exactly what I want, at least an inch. If I were to find that I did not have enough liquid from squeezing the cabbage, I could make my own brine. And this is a simple step: 4 cups or a quart of water with 4.5 teaspoons of salt. Boil that water, add the salt, stir until it's dissolved, and then you can just top your packed cabbage with that liquid. You don't want to overfill your vessel because there will be quite a little bit of activity as this ferments. It's going to release gas and it's going to bubble. And if this is overfilled, it will overflow. The final thing for me to do is just to seal my fermentation vessel. So I'm going to place my rubber lid on there. And then this is a water valve that is a sealer. I'm going to pour a little bit of water in here, not too much. And what this is going to do is it's going to create that seal that will allow gases to escape. You can see in the little lid here that there's some holes. And again, that will allow the gases to escape while keeping bacteria from entering my fermentation vessel. And now the waiting game begins. In front of me, I have the cabbage that I just packed right next to some sauerkraut that is complete. You'll notice, of course, that there is a significant color difference. Now, this has been sitting at room temperature between 70 to 75 degrees for about 4 weeks. The bubbling has stopped. There's no more foam forming on the surface of the liquid. And of course, it smells like sauerkraut. And that's how we know when it's done. Now, if you prefer a sauerkraut that's a little less tangy, you can stop the fermentation process early at about 3 weeks. Or if you prefer a fully developed sauerkraut flavor, 4 weeks is your magic mark. Once you've made this sauerkraut, you'll find that there are many uses for it. Of course, it's a delicious topping to bratwursts. One of my personal favorites is actually why I developed this recipe in the first place, and that's a topping for Reuben sandwiches. Of course, it's a classic side to many German dishes. Now, this recipe makes a lot of sauerkraut, so once it's done fermenting, you're going to want to transfer it from the fermentation vessel to refrigerator containers where it can be stored for up to 3 weeks. I think you're going to really enjoy this sauerkraut recipe and the various uses that you'll discover. Thanks for watching.